And over to you, Bobby.
All right, Amit, thank you. So welcome everyone to our webinar today, Unlocking Digital Documents with Conga. So really wanted to introduce the team and get an idea of who we are, what we do here at Conga. And then we'll talk a little bit about our agenda and things coming up. So just to start off, my name is Bobby Johnson. I'm the Director of Global Alliances here at Conga. And coming up on 10 years. So I've been with Conga quite a long time, almost a decade. And, beginning basically just starting with our flagship solution, Conga Composer. And so along the line, I've been in SE and worked on the partner team and in product and now really focused on this global alliance and really around technical evangelism. So making sure that we can help support our SI partners, our Salesforce Alliance partners, and really get the word out about the Conga suite of solutions. So introduce the other team members. Cam?
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. Hi, everybody. My name is Cam Nielsen. I'm one of the technical evangelists on our team. Been at Conga for a little over 4 years. Worked in the ecosystem for 10 years, but really, yeah, focusing on making sure that teams are understand the value of Conga and how to implement it. So really appreciate the time. Tiff?
Hi, everyone. Tiffany Kroner. I'm with Bobby. I've been with Conga for just under 10 years. So that anniversary is coming up soon. And, when we started, it was so small that we all kind of did everything. So it's been kind of fun to, work in support and sales and partners. And it's always fun. I keep kind of gravitating back to the partner technical resource. It's just, it's a lot of fun for me. So happy to be here, and thanks for everyone for joining.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so let's talk about a little bit about our agenda. We're going to kind of focus today on digital documents, right? But with so many products and solutions, we thought it made sense. Digital documents, that's kind of our flagship, where we started. So we know you're a technical bunch. We want to spend the majority of our time with some hands-on demo. We're going to touch a little bit on Conga's history and then dive into a technical digital documents demo from Cam, and then dive into the evolution of a button and get into some specific areas like gathering data and template creation and parameters, where Tiffany's really going to show some of the magic. So again, we'll focus on some migration things and then do some Q&A at the end, and really love to get your thoughts around maybe what our next sessions might be. We could talk a little bit about CLM or go into a deeper dive. And so love to talk to you about that. But first, who is Conga? For those of you who are new to Conga or maybe not aware of our evolution, wanted to do a quick overview. Conga was one of the first apps on the App Exchange, born in 2006, and continues to tout the #1 downloaded paid app on the App Exchange. So diving into a few numbers here as the all-new Conga, we have an extensive ecosystem with over 400 partners, 12 global locations, and over 10,000 customers, and rated as a leader in a number of industry analyst reports. When you hear digital documents or CLM or e-signature, our 3 pillars, we really want you to think of Conga.
So, what is digital documents? You could probably imagine. But digital documents, this is where we got our start and where the majority of our customers are. Every business out there needs documents. And now more and more of them are finally going virtual. And so, they need to take that data out of their system and create beautiful documents and do it in seconds. And now that we're getting into the idea of everything needs to be delivered via email, e-signature is everywhere now. So we have the creation of the documents, the delivery, the digital delivery of all of those. And then we can take that a couple steps further and automate these documents that are being delivered. So we can run batches of document creation. So if you need to create tax receipts, I did my taxes yesterday, so that's top of mind. You can create, hundreds and thousands of documents in a single process. You could run something behind the scenes with trigger. So, when you update a specific set of fields, or, something happens at the end of a process and creates a document, or you can use our own workflow tool or grids to create these documents. So there's a ton of different automation methods that we can use, and Cam will give you a demo of one of them. So yeah, we'll run through the actual building out of the document, but it's just, I don't know, everyone needs it, and we'll kind of show you more of those use cases.
Perfect.
So yeah, digital transformation has really become a must. I think we're all getting to be aware of that. It's even more obvious in the current situation that we're dealing with. We found in recent studies that the vast majority of leaders believe that digital transformation will put them ahead of their competitors. So these organizations know and are incentivized to adopt these strategies. And in fact, 90% of these organizations that successfully implemented their digital transformation strategy saw a significant increase in revenue. So the writing is on the wall. I mean, people are seeing other organizations gain revenue. They want to do the same. But yet, only 50% of those initiatives are indeed successful. So having the tools like Conga to really help drive this, make it easier, is really what we're here for. So why is it? We take a look at Conga and we want to try to achieve these digital transformation objectives, and we want to help our customers and all the people alike to gain that in competition.
Awesome. Thanks, Cam. So, we thought we'd throw this slide out here to just kind of give you some ideas of the types of documents. Tiff, Cam, and I, we've been doing this for a long time, and call after call, solution after solution, things still come up where we were like, oh, that's a great solution in that industry. So I know, Tiffany, you were going to talk a little bit about high tech, right?
Yeah, high tech. So they're great. They're our early adopters. So we have a ton of high tech customers, and they're always kind of thinking of new ways to use Conga. And what's great is they usually come to us for quotes or proposals, but then they kind of see all the gaps and start to fill in, all the other places that they need it when they're like HR documents. And they're great. They see the big picture on, we have this great document generation. We needed this one solution, but hey, there's all these other solutions that we can also use. So they're kind of, I don't know, really make use of the product incredibly well.
No doubt. Cam, what about fins?
So yeah, Fin is another one, just like what Tiffany was saying with high tech. I mean, these organizations have tons and tons of data that they need to manage. They need to be able to control that data, but they also need to be able to deliver it to their customers. And when you start working with people's money, it really becomes important that they want all of the I's dotted and the T's crossed. And what these tools allow you to do is you can look at these solutions here for price and proposal, but imagine invoices, billing, all of those standard use cases. But in Fins, when you bring in the whole aspect of managing someone's future when it comes to financial, those clients want to understand what's going on. They want to make sure that their goals are top of mind. So being able to produce a document like, as it's called in the industry, a KYC, and being able to walk through all the pertinent points that customer cares about and letting them know that you have that top of mind, but yet easily producing it by managing that data, producing it with our documents engine, and then delivering it in a secure method, either with signature or a couple other solutions we're going to show you, really becomes important.
Yeah, no doubt. And HLS, I thought I'd kind of pinpoint that it's an industry we're all focused on right now, right? Because of what's going on in the world, and of course with COVID and vaccine management. Our team internally here is working with Salesforce right now developing a new set of solutions around provider, payer, medtech, and pharma segments. And we anticipate having a new HLS IDEO package with some of the very thoughtful solutions by the end of the quarter. So, just really a testament of what you can do with the Conga solution. So this slide illustrates really the breadth of use cases that we can handle in multiple industries. Cam, talk to us a little bit about, businesses running on documents, and not vertical wide, but really just like pretty much every organization in their segments.
Yeah, totally. And that's what this slide really depicts that. And if you look at the previous slide, where it was all of those use cases that were specific to delivering a solution, kind of pivot your thought process here. And when you look at this slide, this is one organization. So it's important to all of these groups to have all of that transparency through what's going on in those documents, but also be able to produce them for their own independent needs. And Conga is really built on that. Tiffany and Bobby have been here since we started to build the solution, and they've really seen it grow to accomplish those goals. But if you look at this, a president and CEO is up at the top of an organization. When they're making decisions as an executive leadership team, they need to make sure that when they purchase and buy products that are going to drive their digital transformation, it has to meet each of these use cases. And that's really where Conga has been a great fit for teams like this.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, so right before we get into our demo, just kind of wanted to think about, we've been talking about broad range of documents and solutions, but thinking Conga Composer, again, our flagship solution, and how you solve the challenges we talked about in transforming your digital document strategy. When you look here, we know we're tightly aligned with Salesforce. We're an AppExchange Platinum partner. But with Composer here, you can see formatting the document. People come to us, we hear PDFs all the time. Word makes sense, but what about PowerPoint? What about Excel, email? So Composer can handle all of those specific outputs. Your delivery method, right? Conga sign, a different actual repositories, right? Storage, so Box and Google Drive or OneDrive, Salesforce files, all those things, and really thinking about elevating your brand with beautiful and professional looking documents. That's the power and the beauty of Composer. So with that, I think it's probably time for us to just focus in on getting into some hands-on demoing. So again, the way we're going to do this is Cam is going to just demo a proposal in one of our demo environments and just walk through what the user experience is and what it looks like just to generate that document. And then from there, Tiffany and I are going to go into, again, the evolution of a button and building out a solution so they can see how that works. So Cam, I think I will stop sharing so that you can grab the share.
Perfect. All right. Let me see here. All right. And in the second most used phrase of the last 12 months, can you see my screen?
Yes.
The first is you're on mute.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I guess you're using big screen. Can you increase the font size?
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for letting me know. Is that better?
Yes.
All right. So yes, as Bobby mentioned, we're going to kind of walk through a simple Composer use case of a proposal. But before I do, let's set the landscape a little bit. On an opportunity, just really want to take this generation. At this point, we're ready to create a document. So we've got all of our information filled out. But some of the things we mentioned was talking about how organizations can not only produce documents, but how does it govern and make them more efficient during this digital transformation? And one of the biggest things that they can do is seeing that transparency. And real quick, I've created a couple proposals on this. You can see that it's been added to the activity list. And I wanted to just kind of highlight that's a huge piece. Not only being able to get these documents out, but letting other team members know what you're doing, collaborating, and making that automation layer really kind of help you get this process done. But seeing what we're looking at. So the first thing I'm going to do is just generate a proposal. And I just click this button. And for those that have used Composer, you can really make this as simple as process as you want, or you can have manual interaction as you need. In this case, I'm just generating a document. So the system knows I'm going out and grabbing the template for whatever the basis of my document, grabbing any data outside of this Salesforce org, whether it's customer standard, other objects, related objects, we can grab all of that data and produce it all into one document with one click, as we're seeing here. So as it produces this document, we talked about what are the next steps? Well, in this case, it's going to log that activity that says, hey, I produced this document for you. I've created it. It's also going, we have multiple ways to deliver it. Now, in this case, the way I chose to deliver it is kind of some of our newer technology, which is needed in our newer environment. A lot of times when you're sending documents are having a lot of images, a lot of interaction to really grab that viewer's attention. But to do so, these files have gotten a little bit bigger. So in some cases, they'll hit email inboxes or stuff like that and say, hey, you know what, this file's too big. So Conga added the functionality of being able to create a link. So as you can see here, I just clicked that button. It has now produced this email, send it over, and I can actually see it's in a branded email. It's got my logo, all the text is taken care of. It's merged in all that data, and it's a quick snapshot of the document I'm actually sending. But instead of having an attachment, I have this link here. So security is a huge thing. Bobby was talking about HLS. I was talking about FinServ. These are organizations where you need to have a lot of security around it. And you can do that with the secure deliver of Conga. So as you can see here, it's merged in all these images, all of the information, the logos. It's brought in all of these additional white papers and testimonials that really speak about it. And it's brought in the executive leadership. It's merged in pictures of the people that are involved in this proposal. Here's our white paper that talks about, hey, you know what, this is how you're going to gain an advantage. This is what you're going to save. What's your budget? And then it's brought in all of the products that are attached to this. So all in a seamless document with one click. Now, I wanted to touch on one more thing before we jump. I used a button here to generate this document. We can also use our built-in Lightning component. You can also use this, we're going to touch a little bit more on batch and trigger, being able to automate this. So if a field changes, you can trigger these same documents being produced for all the use cases we showed in the prior information. I'm going to hand it back over to you guys, but that's all I had to show.
Cool. Excellent.
Nice.
Cam, thank you for that nice little demo there. So what I'm going to do now is get into, again, a little bit about the evolution of a button. So can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. So we are in an org. If you're familiar with Salesforce and their SDO, their simple demo org, we're actually going to demo from the Salesforce simple demo org. So if anyone out there is familiar, this is the kind of main core org that Salesforce demos out of. And Conga, if you go to Q branch, is here in the partner solutions. You can see I can expand the partner solutions section, and this is where we're available. So, if you've got access to this, you can come in here, you can look at our demo kit. You can actually deploy these solutions and get running fairly quick with some actual, I think we have 9 solutions built into the core SDO. So just wanted to touch on that real quick. But here in that SDO org, wanted to focus in on how in the beginning, in the early days, how you created a Conga solution. So back in the early days, before there was Lightning, right? We would come out to our classic version, and we would go to an object, and from there we would go to buttons, links, and actions, and create a new button, and from scratch, right? So a lot of people, Tiffany and I in the early days when we were helping support people, they would say, well, wait a minute, I have to create a button and then I have to just start coding it. I'm not a developer,
Lots of copy paste, yeah.
Yeah. We're like, no, you got a button here. It's already here. All you have to do is just take this, copy these first 3 lines, paste them into a new button, and boom, then you start adding in your parameters. So here you can see I've got a button for this account brief. And account brief is a great solution to show us pulling data from all over the org. You need some cases, you need assets, you need projects, you need maybe opportunities, contacts, right? You could just pull that data from everywhere. Now you can see in our button where we would go in and edit it, we could paste in those 4 lines, and then we would start adding in parameters. So in other words, I'm pulling in a query and I need contact information. So I know the parameter is ampersand query ID equals, then I need to name it, right? So I alias it here, and then I've got now my ID for the query record that I created. And so then you could just repeat that for multiple queries. Templates here, I've got my template ID. And so people looked at this and said, are you kidding me? Like, that's pretty involved. I have to really know what I'm doing, you know? So a few years later, one of our colleagues, Jay Manning, who, you know, was the creator of what we refer to as the solution builder, this was the next step. So from a classic hands-on manual button build, we were actually able to go from there into the solution builder. I'm going to touch into that. So here, if I go to my app builder, I can go to the Conga Composer app. So once you install Composer into an org, you're going to get all of these tabs here at the top, right? So you got your quick start. Your quick start is actually going to be the new section, and I'm going to touch on that later. So I'm going to skip over that. You've got your setup section. So we now have something really simple for you to go in and actually complete all of your setup from one page. Used to be all over the place in different areas, but now you can go to your setup and configure it right here in this one section. And then Conga Solutions, and this is what I was referring to. So Conga Solutions was the next step of how I not just create a button, but I create an entire solution. So back in the day, you had to go create a template record. You go to Conga templates and you create that, and then you attach your, your template, maybe a Word document, and then you do maybe an email template. You have to create your email template in a different place, and you go to Conga queries and you generate a query. So you had all these different places you had to hop around to, where now with Conga Solutions, I'm going to go to this existing account brief to give you an idea. Here's that button configuration again, right? So we just saw that same configuration, but in this solution builder, you don't have to build it manually. All you do is create a solution, and it automatically sets up these first 4 lines or 3 lines for you. And as you go through each one of these buttons here, so when I add a query, I can go to add a query and it will build the button for you. So I can go in and select from my list of queries. I can alias it, give it a name. I can add it to the solution record. I can come back to the solution record and then say, oh, it just added it. There it is, right? And so as you add these things, it's now a button click solution, and the button is being built for you. So what about parameters? People ask me all the time, like, how do I know what is DS7 and what is SC1 and OFN? Well, the thing I love about the solution builder is this customize with parameter section. So imagine you were looking at this saying, I need to default to a PDF. I'm not exactly sure. You could actually just search and see, oh, here are all the parameters around PDF, and oh, there, look, that's probably default PDF. And so the ability to just select one, and when you do, it actually taps into our knowledge base and it gives you some guidance, right? So it tells you, oh, default PDF, the parameter value options are either 0 or 1, so off or on. And in this case, I can select the parameter. You can see everything kind of jumped in or flashed in green. That tells me I'm good to go. All I have to do is add this parameter and return to the solution record. And that's, again, building the button one parameter at a time. Now, what about other options? So another one would be like output, right? So let's see, output file name is something that comes up quite often. And you can see here, I've got my OFN parameter. So that's an output file name. We have customers constantly saying, well, our specific naming convention, it needs to be, a dynamic account name. I need to have today's date, or maybe account brief for whatever that is. You can do that here. Again, here's that knowledge base. Here's an example of what a parameter may look like, and then some exact information. But when I select this parameter, you'll notice, I had something flash in red that tells me there's something I need to do. And you can see the parameter name here gives me a description, but the parameter value, this is a dynamic value that I can go and actually input. So, you know, if I was creating an account brief, I could say account brief for, well, I want a dynamic field in here. Well, we've got the merge field helper. The beauty of this is I can just click on a field and then search for a specific maybe name and kind of go through and say, all right, oh, there it is. There's the account name. So I can just click on that. Look at that. It adds in that field for me. Maybe I want to make it even more dynamic and put in, you know, today's date. And there we've got a parameter for that. So look at that. Account brief 4. Push the account name in there and today's date in there. And all I have to do is add that parameter to the record and then return to the solution builder. And again, it'll build this thing out. Now you see I already had one in here, OFN for account name, briefing, and today's date. So the beauty here is you could just start building this thing, and what you're doing is you're customizing the user experience here by adding all these parameters. I think, Tiff, what do we have? Over 400 parameters now for Composer?
Oh yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah.
And that is growing, you know, every release.
Yeah.
It seems like.
So if there's something you need the button or the experience to do, I bet we've probably created a parameter on that. And Tiffany, I think you were going to touch later on like where you can see those and view those. So we'll make sure we show you that. But you know, the solution builder, one of the other great things here, what we really like, admins. We're always talking to admins. They're the ones building these solutions. They're the ones deploying them. And a lot of times they would come to us and they say, you know, the only way to test this thing is I have to go put a button on the layout so that I can go there and I can click it and test it and see what that solution looks like. And of course, I got users out there going, hey, what's that? And, you know, clicking on it. So the beauty of the solution builder is you can actually select a sample record up here. And once you select that sample record, you can launch this right here from the solution and test out your solution as you're building it, just to make sure that, you know, the template looks right, it's in the right place, your query is pulling in data, you know, all the things that you need it to do so that you can perfect it before you put it on the layout and give it to your users. So the solution builders was that great first step after the manual build, but I want to touch on where we're really trying to point people now, and that's getting into the Conga document automation wizard. Okay, so the document automation wizard is actually what we refer to as the DAW, and it's the new evolution of that manual button and then the Conga solution builder. And you can see I've got all those same solutions down here. So that account brief where I could go in and edit it, but let's just launch one. So I'm gonna launch the wizard here. And what we're going to refer to here is, I think I'm going to create an account brief, but we'll call this number 2 since we already have one in here. So you can see I get to select an object. So you can see all the objects in your org will be here, and select an account. And then I also want to select an a sample record. So well, I probably need one, huh? Let's go to one. How about that? So if we go over to sales, I go over to accounts. Oh, Ahana Inc. Perfect. So create it. All right. So I basically created this new solution, right? And you can see at the top, I've got my directions, you know, a nice little walkthrough. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to gather some data. And once we do that, or maybe creating a query, a SQL query, after that, I'm going to add a template, and then I'm going to assign behaviors. That gets into all those parameters that we were talking about. And then we're going to touch on this new feature, this collection step. And the collection step is around the new Lightning component, so that you can add those buttons to a collection, which is your Lightning component, and put it on the layout. So from here, I'd really like to hand it over to Tiffany, who's, our resident expert in data and templates and really everything Conga Composer. So I'm going to stop share and
Let me grab the screen. All right. Thanks, Bobby.
yeah.
So I'm going to show you how to find that solution that Bobby just started, and we're going to start adding some data and building out a template for it. So we have a couple options here. So that did create a solution record, or we can find it in the quick find. So I want to show you where. So if we open this up, we can scroll down and see we have our account brief 2. If we edit in here, that's going to open it back up in the document automation wizard, or we can open it up in the solution record and add it kind of the older method or the other method. So I'm going to stay in the DAW and continue along the process. So we have our solution started and we can start running it now. So if we wanted to, it's going to automatically give us all of the fields that I have available as the user for the account record. And if I have a primary contact, I can associate that contact's information immediately. I don't have to build a query or anything for it. If I'm on a opportunity or a quote, it's going to automatically grab line items as well. It's going to, it's just something that our product team has thrown in, because it's pretty likely if you're on an opportunity, you're going to want to know their products, and same thing with the quote. So I don't have to build any additional queries to go and gather that data. But if I want anything else, we're not going to grab everything off the bat, because that would produce an incredibly slow process. If I'm just getting account data and maybe contact data, I don't need, if I have, a ton of objects hanging off my account, it's really going to slow the process if it's trying to grab all that stuff. So we're going to tell it exactly what we want to make sure we're not overdoing it and slowing down the system and constantly running data that we don't actually need. Okay. So we're going to do that with the SOCL statement. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new query, or I can search for any queries that already exist. Of course, you could reuse a query as many times as you need to for whatever solutions, but we're going to talk about the filtering on that as we build out a new one. So for this example, I am going to build out an opportunity one. So how I like to do this, or kind of best practice, is let's try to spell that right. So we're going to get opportunity data, and I am going to associate that or connect it to the actual button, so it's easy to find later. So what data I'm getting and what button it's for is what I like to put in here. Good naming convention. I also like to do some aliases, but it's not as necessary as it used to be, because we now require aliases if you're building out the solution in the DAW or the automation wizard or the solution manager. Okay, so that's all I need to do. I just need to give it a name. I'm going to go ahead and hit save here.
So
And it's going to, yeah.
I remember back in the day before we required aliases, it was
It's a nightmare.
Yeah, it was Conga query 1, Conga query 2, right? And at the end of the day, if somebody went in and changed or deleted a query and it changed the naming convention for all the other ones, it just blew up your solution. And I remember we were like, oh, well, let's require somebody to name them. What an idea, right?
Right. It's, yeah, because somebody would go and delete query 2, and then query 3 would then become query 2.
Yeah.
And then we'd have to go in and give them the alias of query 3, even though it's query 2. It was a pain. So aliases are fantastic, and that's why we've made best practice the rule now.
Yes.
Yeah, that's very handy. And if anyone hasn't used Conga lately, or even noticed that we have a new Conga key down here, it's going to be important later on. So this is something that we'll reference instead of the ID, or you can kind of switch them out. So instead of doing the record ID, you can use this key, and that's going to be our default as you build out the new solutions. If you want to use the ID, it's absolutely possible that you can, or if you're on an older version that doesn't have the key on it, totally fine. You can do both. All
That's going
right,
to be
so
important for migration later, right?
yeah, yeah, that was a little sneak of to what's to come. So of course, if you like to build out SOCL statements, you can write your SOCL statement in here. I am not good at that. I always misspell something and I have to troubleshoot it, or get the field name wrong. So I always use the wizard, even if it's a simple one. So what this is it's going to pull up, basically, we're going to start from kind of the middle of the query and work our way out. So how we like to do this is we start with the lowest level object so that you're building. So, okay, in this query, I want to get opportunity information, but say I wanted to also get line item information, I would want to start at my opportunity line items or opportunity products, and then I could also get opportunity and account. I could kind of build up, but I always want to start at that lowest level. So in this case, I'm going to click on one of these and it's going to allow me to type in where I want to go. I'm just going to get all opportunities. We want to see kind of what deals we've been working, the whole history of deals for this particular account. So I pick my one object and go ahead and hit next. All right, and then it's going to give me all of the fields for that object. And then you could see additional relationships are captured in here. If there's a lookup field, it's going to show those automatically. And if you want to do, if it needs to go additional levels, you can do that, just not in the wizard. You have to go through it and manually add that kind of relationship piece. We'll show you how we can edit it. So let's start with amount.
So inner joins, outer
Stage.
joins.
Yeah,
Getting
which we
real
will
crazy
not
with the
cover, but we will tell you it's possible.
Yeah.
All right, we'll give it the name and maybe the owner. Oh, no, we can't get the owner name, but if we come down to this lookup section here, we can find the owner name. Full name. Perfect. So now we have some data. All right. A few fields to get us started, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit next. Depending on how many lookups you have, the more lookups you have, the longer this next button is going to sit here and think about moving on, because it's checking each one of those sections.
Yeah. And the beauty here is once you build this query and you get those fields and pull that data, if you create a new custom field, you can come back here and just add it really quick and boom, now you've got access to that field, right?
Absolutely. Yep. All right, so we've built out the if statement, and now this is asking how to do or what we want in our where clause. So this is very important for the filtering. So you can get pretty creative with these, but what we care about is we're on an opportunity, but we only want the opportunities that are related to the account that we're clicking that account brief button from. So we want to filter on the related account ID, always IDs. Names aren't dependable. So I'm going to put account ID in here equals blank. We're going to leave that blank because we want Conga to fill that in for us. I can do some additional ones. So maybe I only care about, if the close date was in the last, couple years or anything in just the open stage, that sort of stuff. We can break that down a little bit further. We can also assign the sort order. So I want to do, maybe by a certain amount, we can order that. And then if I only care about my top 5 or something along those lines, I can add a limit in here as well.
Nice.
All right. So let's go ahead and hit next. So here is my SOCL statement. So before I hit save, I have the ability to go and test it and make sure that it's pulling the data I want before I finish this wizard. So I'm going to head over to a little back way of getting an ID. So this is the one that we've just assigned as our test record. And then we're going to paste that in here and hit preview. And if you haven't done this before, you're going to get a pop-up blocker. But this is giving me my data. So my SOCL statement's working great. We're ready to go.
Success.
Yeah, very good. So we'll go ahead and close that and save it. All All right, and then if you need to do anything after this, of course, you could just hit the edit and make some changes. So maybe if you want to do, you know, you forgot a field, you don't want to go through the wizard, you can just go and paste in the ID or the, oh my gosh, API name. You can edit that from here, but you don't have to. You can just go back to your solution and continue along the process. So it kicked me, or I navigated out of it. So let's go back and edit, and now we have that new query. All right, so we have opportunity account brief. All right, so we're going to go to our data gathering. There we go. There's our solution record right here. And it's going to make me put in an alias. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet. We have, I want to say 35 characters. We don't have a lot, no special characters, pretty strict on that. We want to keep it short and sweet and nothing that could ruin the button or kind of misread it. Oops, sorry, I clicked save a little too soon. So now we have that record and we can continue to add more, but we're going to keep that one and come back and show you a couple more options on that later. All right, so our next step is to actually do the template. So we have data, we have a button that's pulling the right data. So let's go and build out a template. So again, we could search on existing ones, or we can create a new template or email template in this window. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create new. And there's a couple ways that we can do this.
So customers, when they come to us, you know, I think that's one of the most often asked questions is they're like, well, what do most people do, right? You know, like do most people just start from scratch, or do most people have a template and they say, hey, this is what I wanted to be? In your experience, Tiff, what do you think?
So most people have some sort of template that they're using. It's something that's usually manual. That they're, you know, copying and pasting fields into. They want to keep that look, but some of those templates are dirty. They've been kind of passed around and, you know, they can get corrupted really easily. So I always recommend you start from scratch and just kind of rebuild it, throw in tables. It seems like too often people are starting from an existing document. And then once they kind of understand how Conga works, then they're like, oh, that's really cool. I want to do a table instead of, you know, this like text box and that kind of stuff. And then they end up changing it. Yeah. So start with a nice clean blank document, and there are ways that will kind of spit out a template for you. I'll show you how we do that as well, if you kind of build it in here and then kind of create a brand new template with that data.
Perfect.
All right, so I'm going to show you just how we can kind of copy paste some things. So we have a few different template types. So your field will change based off of which template type you're building. So let's look at our Excel one, and I'll just show you really quick. We'll click on that little clipboard thing, and it is going to copy it to my clipboard, and I can go paste it. So this is what an Excel one looks like. And then we have a different version for PDF. PDFs rarely get used. It's usually just for government documents.
Right.
Word, PowerPoint, and email are all the same.
And
so
most use cases are Word, right?
Yeah, so Word is, I would say, like 90, maybe 95% of our customers are using Word just because they're so flexible. And most of them are spitting out to a PDF, but it's so easy to build it and then convert it to a PDF. The functionality in Word is just, you know, by far the best that we have on our template types.
Nice.
So easy. All right, so let's start to build out some fields that we actually need. So we want to do the name of, there we go. So our account name, of course we need that field. Let's try that again. There it is. Don't add spaces. So we find the field that we want just by searching, and then we can go and paste that into our new document. All right, so it's just those double brackets. That's where our field is going to be.
Now, if I knew the name of the field, if I knew it was account underscore name around curly brackets, could I just type that in there?
You could. So much easier to copy paste because you
Mhm.
might accidentally, just for, I mean, we're humans, we make mistakes.
Yep.
So much easier just to copy paste and have, the system do it all.
Now, I do notice that these fields have like sample data
Mhm.
underneath.
Yeah.
And I know that's awesome because like sometimes somebody has like 5 fields that are all named sort of the same, but they know the results they're looking for. And so you can search by the results to find that correct field.
You're right. Yeah. So in this case, the next thing that we want to do is maybe add um, the address. We're not sure which one, if they're using billing or city. So I type city in here, or we even have another. So I could see which one actually has data. So this one says San Francisco. They're not using billing in this org. They are using shipping down here. So we can kind of decide which one we want to use. I'm going to go with shipping on here and copy that. Now, if we're not sure which field we want to use, like, I don't know which owner field I want to grab. So I'm going to type in the owner information. And Robbie, I think you are the owner. No, maybe not. Okay, well, we could search for, we'll just search for San Francisco. Sorry, there's a really bad delay on my search. On my computer, rather. All right, so we just started CMFRIN and we could see all the different fields that we have available for that value. So this is great when you know something is populated and you pull it up and you're like, oh my gosh, why are there so many of the same, like similar named fields? Let's see which one is actually being used by looking at that record's value. All right, so from here, I mean, we just continue to copy and paste. So we'll move on to the shipping and pop over to our Word document and start to paste that in there, okay? All right, so how else can we do this? I want to show you another method. So I'm going to go ahead and hit done on here. And then pop over to my Conga solution and open it, the solution version of this up. And I don't mean for this to be confusing, but I do want to show you guys different options. So in the solution, this shows you the button UI, and there's another template builder in here. And actually the one that I prefer. All right, so we get this little UI popped up. I'm an admin, so I get this some additional options in here. And I'm going to go into template builder. There's also a view data if it dumps everything in an Excel file. So you'll get the button name. Oh no. Live demo.
I think you have to update the button
I think you're right. I haven't.
in the solution.
Oh yeah. You're right.
There we go.
Okay,
Now
so
I think
these
it'll.
two match. Yep, you're right.
Yeah. Now I
Thank you.
think it'll. So any old Conganeers out here, people who are familiar with Conga Composer, been using it, over the past few years, this is going to look really familiar, right? This is our old UI. This is, but tried and true. This is where you can get all of the data sets and again, like you said, probably preferred by a lot of people who are using Conga.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not quite sure why that is not wanting to work. Well, I'll hop over to an existing button and we'll show that. So one thing to mention when on this window, so what kind of Bobby was pointing out, we have 2 URLs in here. So what I like about this one is if you're an admin updating an existing solution or anyone updating an existing solution, so people are clicking this button, and you need to make some updates, you can add those parameters without breaking anything, and then update, actually click the update button when you're ready. So you don't actually have to push those live right away. If you're working in an actual button, you do need to hit save, but you can kind of wait, add all those changes while you're thinking about it, and then click the update button when you need to. All right, in
You
background
need to
mode.
take it out of background mode.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, guys.
So background mode, DS7, is actually the parameter, and then the response there. We have multiple solutions for background mode. 1, 2 is to email, 3 is to launch to your browser, and on and on and on, so that you get the behavior that your user wants, right? So in other words, let's put it in background mode. I don't want to see all of these options. I'm going to click the button and get my document, right?
Yep. And one that's best practice, we don't have it in this org because it's meant for demoing, but in our actual customer orgs, it's great to have if statements related to the background mode, so that you can say, okay, I need to see this UI to make sure things are pulling in right, updating the template. So you can say, okay, run in background mode unless you're the admin. If it's an admin, don't run in background mode. So you can write if statements in this and have some logic into the behavior of all this.
Yeah, and I think I saw that in it, somebody had asked in the chat about, can you put some logic, some dynamic logic in the button? Absolutely.
Perfect. All right, so here is the template builder. So from here, same thing, we have all of those fields in here. And then we also have the actual Salesforce value. So you can search on either one of these. Now, you'll notice master is whatever object our button's on. So in this case, it's the account. And then these are all the additional queries that we have in here. You'll always have org in here. It's just the actual org details. So if you need to add, dynamic, the address or name of the company or that sort of information, you can dynamically do it instead of hard coding it into the button. User information, of course, this is whoever clicked the button. So this is great if you're saying, thank you, and then who it's from, or, email signature type stuff. You can do that with the user information. And then system is a special date and time stamp, and yeah, so we can do today or now. So if you need to add that to documents as well, or as Bobby did in like the actual naming of the document. So from here, you can see 5 rows, 4 rows, 1 row. What does that mean? So this is the number based off of our query, how many records it found. So there's 5 cases related to this, but you only see one, the top case, or one case, an example case. So you can start to build out this information. So why we have our account information, this is all singular data. We only have one account from this record, but we're going to have multiple cases and contacts and that sort of stuff. So if we pop over here, we're going to see it kind of build itself out in a slightly different way. So we're going to let's grab a couple of these. We want the status, we want the subject, we want the owner, and let's do the created date. So it's actually building a table across the page. So what this is going to do, we just need to add this one table to the solution, and then we can, to the template record, and it's going to dynamically grow this, whether it's, comes back with 2 cases, or if it comes back with 2,000 cases, it's going to grow dynamically based off of what that query finds. And then you can, of course, go in and add more filters, or you can even group if you want to. If this is just, when you have a lot of records, you want to start to say, okay, maybe we break this into multiple tables and break it up by priority. You can do that as well. So I'm going to go ahead and pop this out.
Add some master fields too, so they can see the difference between.
Oh, yeah. And actually, I'll show you how you can create a whole template out of here. So we have our case information. Let's grab our account. We want to add this, maybe move this field up above so you can do some kind of fun things. Oh, you can't right there. Sorry. We'll do it in the template, and we'll add our billing fields. Oops, I added one I didn't need. What am I going to do? Let's get rid of it. So we'll come into this field section here and then say remove field, or I can remove all of them by clicking this remove all. So you can kind of play around with these. I do have something on here that says to grab the label. So it says include label. So I can turn that off and then it will stop including the label of the fields. I do recommend you do it for the templates or for the tables.
Mhm.
All right, so I have some master fields. I have some data set fields. Let's go ahead and download this into a brand new template. I could copy paste it onto that existing one, but I want to show you how we build out a whole new Word template. All
Good.
right, so now we have a template and we can move these around as needed, get rid of all this and maybe simplify it to just address. All right. So we have these marks in red. So this is when you know that you're going to have some dynamic data or it's coming from another, from a query basically, is it adds these basically like bookends. So all the fields are going to go in between these bookends. And this is an instruction saying, hey, Conga, we want to get information from whatever query is aliased cases. And then, hey, Conga, stop looking at cases. We want to move into the next one. So this is great when you say open cases, closed cases. It just is that instruction to, hey, Conga, go look over here. And then stop looking over there, go look over here. So these are required and of course automatically added for you. And most often when you have a error message, it's because one of these is missing. So let's actually save this and go merge it.
Love that local template option.
Mm-hmm. So I am pulling it straight from my computer because I don't want to go save it in Salesforce until I'm ready. There's a lot more I want to do with this, but I just want to see what my data looks like. So I have this tab because I'm an admin. I pull it from my local computer and then I can hit this preview. So what this preview is it's going to skip any instructions on saving it inside of Salesforce or creating any additional record of this happening inside of Salesforce. It's just let me see the document. Or if you're sending it to email, it's not going to try to email it. It's just going to say, we're going to download the document for you. All right, so now I have my cases here. I can add some picture switches if I want to like control what that date looks like or what a currency looks like. And then I have my fields.
Nice.
Perfect.
So at that point, really start to massage your template and get it to look exactly how you want or how your customer wants, right?
Yep, exactly. And then I'm going to open up an existing template and we'll kind of talk through a few key features in here that we don't have time to actually build out in the template. So table hide, this is really popular. So if you don't have any data, so if I didn't have any cases or something along those lines that we just built out in that last one, I could say, hey, if there's no data, don't show an empty table. We don't want to see it. So you can automatically hide it with this instruction right here. We also have the ability to have aggregated queries. So if I want to just pull back, maybe all products by product family and give me an amount or a count or all of that, I can aggregate that query. And this one's pulling back just the number of all open cases and then all the number of closed cases. So it's pulling that data. It doesn't exist in Salesforce, so it's going to just count that information for me. Nested queries. You can pull nested queries. You can do semi-join, all that kind of advanced, or a lot of that advanced query stuff. We can pull it and we can kind of say, all right, I need my opportunities, like we built the query for, but you know what, I also want to get the products for each one of those opportunities, the teams that are working on those opportunities, and I need to make sure that they're grouped together. So we have a nested query to do just that. So we can get really deep into options in here. And then we can grab images, HTML, rich text fields, hyperlinks, all of those type of specialty fields. We can convert that to something that can actually be used on the template. So we'll actually get an image or that hyperlink to their website or something along those lines. And then here's an example of some of those picture switches where you can actually say, hey, I need a date. It needs to be in a specific type or specific view, or hey, it's a date time field, but I just need the date, don't need the time. You can grab that and kind of filter that out.
That's great. Can we just do a quick time check, Amit? How are we on time?
We're getting low.
We should be fine.
Okay, great.
Good.
And maybe, Tiff, if we could just kind of finish the solution.
Yep. So we're going to hop back over to our DAW.
Because we could spend the whole time just
Oh my gosh, we
working
could.
on just working on a Word document and formatting it, right?
Right? There's so much that we can do.
Oh my God. Yeah.
All right, so we have our data gathered. We need to add that template. So we went and built that template. Now we just need to add it to Salesforce. So we're going to upload a new template.
The group is actually super cool to use, especially if you're creating lots of templates and lots of areas, right?
Mm-hmm. You
So
got it.
you could actually go in and kind of dynamically select templates, but you could also say, oh, maybe I'm in HLS and my customers, they're all patients. And you could create 5 or 6 patient templates and allow maybe the admin assistant to click a button and select from a group of templates, but they don't want to see 100 templates. They just want to see the 5 that are specific to templates. And that's where you could use grouping.
Exactly. Because by default, when you open up that Conga UI, everyone's going to see every template. So grouping is a must when you have, multiple templates, especially on multiple objects, just to keep it clean. It's also handy if you want to see, just Spanish. If there's multiple languages in a company, then you can say, okay, user language equals, and then whatever that group is, an easy way to kind of filter down language options. All right, so I saved that new template, and then we're going to assign the parameter. So that's assigning behaviors. So we added the most popular ones in this little window here. You can add additional ones, but if you're ever curious, or it's just so much easier to go ahead and go through this list and say, hey, yes, this does need to be emailed, and I want it to be a PDF, so nobody changes it. If the end user does need to change it to Word to do something, I'll let them. We can go ahead and do that naming that we saw earlier. And then we have another option for kind of grabbing those fields. I won't go into this in too much detail, but I do want to kind of show you the differences of that. All right, so we have our account name here, and it's cutting off my view. There we go.
So this is that OFN parameter that I showed earlier, but in a more succinct kind of wizard type way, right?
You got it. Yep. So you aren't looking for those parameters and trying to find them. It's saying, hey, these are our most popular parameters. So go ahead and look through and just kind of check a few boxes and fill out a few fields of what you want. If you're going to be emailing it, or you need to have contact information, do you have a primary contact that you just want to associate? This is going to actually open up a whole new section in your template builder with that contacts information. Logging, so of course, do you want to save this somewhere in Salesforce? Do you want to have a record created that a document was created and sent out? So we can fill that out and say, yes, I want a task. And hey, I want a follow-up task for this in 17 days or 14 days or 7 days, whatever. So you can fill that information out as well. If you're going to be emailing it, all the required fields to email it, we want to know who it's going to, what the template is. If there's a template, you could do it on the fly as well. E-signature solutions, all the different options in here.
And templates, you have 2 options, right? You could have a Conga email template where you customize it, or you could designate a Salesforce template.
Yep, absolutely. So if you have one existing, really it's all that like repeatable data. So the lists and stuff you can do in a Conga email template. There's a little bit more robust and a different, basically what you saw in Word, a lot of that can be repeated in a Conga email template. But if you don't need any of that, keep it simple with a Salesforce email template. Yeah. Options on where to save this back inside of Salesforce. So a lot of people want to make sure that they're tracking and saving those files, especially when it has, you know, sales data or contract information. So we can save a copy back inside of Salesforce or third-party information if you know, need to save it to Box or something along those lines. There's some additional options, but these are the out-of-the-box ones. And if you don't see what you're looking for, then you go into this additional behaviors button right here, or section right here. And this is where you kind of go back to the previous system where you search and find the ones that you need. But this is showing me like, hey, these are the ones that you already have in here. So you can start to add ones that you know. So if I want to say, okay, you know, they can only click this if they're truly a customer. So let's say we'll disable the button unless it equals customer, a certain value equals customer. So there's some like we mentioned before, like, you know, 400 plus parameters that you can add in here, but these are by far the most popular used and important ones. And then we have a ton of little kind of one-off ones. So once you get your behaviors ready to go, you can move forward. So I've saved them as I went. And then the next piece is to actually save it to a collection. This one is optional if you prefer the old button method. You can skip this collection step. I like the new collection piece because I love the UI that it has. So I have an existing collection that's called account. I can reuse that one, or I can go ahead and create a new one. So let's say this is for customer accounts. We want to make sure that this one is specific to just accounts that are deemed customers. All right, and then I can look through all the different solutions I have available and add the ones that I want in here. All right, go ahead and hit save. And then the next piece is to add that to the page layout. You can use this. I prefer just to navigate over to a record and add it on the Lightning page. It's easier for me. But you have options. All right, and now we have a solution.
So we've created a solution, and now we could throw that Lightning component on the layout, and the user experience is really about clicking the button and generating their document.
Yep, you got it.
Excellent.
All right, so then we go here, and I'll just show you the way or how it looks, and then I'll hand it over to. Here we go. Here's our document piece. And then it's going to say, hey, what collection do you want? And then we can pick and choose. We want our customer and save. And now that's going to be available on the page layout. All right. We have a solution.
That is awesome, Tiffany. Thank you for walking through that. Good stuff. Like I said, we could probably spend, you know, all day just on a few of those pieces. So I'm going to share my screen. The one thing I did want to touch on, you know, we keep referring to those parameters. And so if you wanted to see a list and really dive into that, if you went to conga.com, and we have this new updated website, really awesome, lots of information, but at the bottom, under support, product documentation, this takes you into kind of like our knowledge base area or around products. And then specifically under digital documents and Composer, we're going to click in there. And then right off the popular topics is always here, this Conga Composer parameter guide. So you want to get in there. And now here's a list of all the parameters, and you can see them kind of broken out. This is parameter basics, kind of a cool thing to look at some of the rules around parameters and how to add them to a solution. We've talked about that, how they're formatted, but then really diving into these parameter categories. So if you were thinking like, you know, What about email parameters? How many of those exist? We have these categorized here, so you can click on it. It shows you some examples, but then a breakdown of all of the email parameters, email to, email template, email CC, email BCC, right? All of the specific places within an email of how to format it. We've got a parameter for every one of those. And so as you start to look through, you could go and find other areas that you want to search for a parameter. Maybe it's around like PDFs. What options do I have? Or maybe it's, CS visible, right? So you got culture, if language and currency are really important, you could go into these culture or currency culture parameters. DC, disable Conga. Somebody had asked about that. Hey, how do I make my button dynamic and make it so that maybe a specific field needs to be completed before I can generate my document? Well, disable Conga allows you to go in and say, okay, disable the button unless something is done. And you can put an if statement in there. And we see that a lot of the times where people want to make it dynamic and say, hey, you know what? I want to make sure a specific field is completed before my user can actually generate a document. And disable Conga is the perfect parameter for that.
Yep. And then there's the reverse, that's enable Conga.
Yeah.
For the stricter orgs, yeah.
Exactly. So great. That was awesome. Again, we touched on a bunch of things there. We could go much deeper, but I wanted to kind of get us back on track and talk really quick. I know Cam wanted to touch on some advanced features.
Yeah, thanks, Bobby. And great job, Tiffany. Hopefully you guys saw some really useful pieces of how to build a solution. But I wanted to touch real quick on how we are working to make these solutions more up to date with the needs of our customers. So I demoed earlier the ability to send a document through a secure delivery system, much like you would do with an e-signature, but only so to make sure that that document reaches its intended recipient. Now, a lot of questions go around about that. It's like, hey, I love being able to produce that document and sending it over. But once I send it, I'm kind of like sitting here waiting. What do I do next? And now we've added the ability to, when you send that document over and your recipient views it, you get notifications of, hey, your recipient has viewed this document, they viewed it at this time. And we're going to grow on providing more optics and more transparency around that. But right now, it really gives you that ability to send the solution over and know that it's been viewed. We want to do more around document history and tracking. Where's the visibility? How is your recipient? What are they looking at? What are they digesting in the document? Where are they focusing? And we mentioned that we wanted to be able to send that link, and I showed you that earlier. But that all kind of encompasses the needs of what our customers are seeing, and our goal is to add those features and be able to provide those solutions to the customers going forward.
Yeah, that's great. Tiffany, I think you wanted to touch on some of our automation pieces.
Yeah, so once you have those buttons created and working, you can take that to the next step. So I mentioned this a little bit earlier, is we have there's sister products that are add-ons to Composer that give you the ability to send out batch documents. So this is really popular if you need to send out a lot of emails at a specific time, or even you need to create, in the example that we were building, an account brief, but you need to say, I'm going on a trip and I need to download 50 account briefs of everyone I'm going to be meeting with. That's a crazy trip, but it's possible. So once you have those solutions, you can convert them to be something more automated. And Trigger, so what that's using, it's piggybacking off of Salesforce workflow. So once some criteria has met on a specific record, it can create that document. So that's really popular. So it's kind of like the next step on like the DC and EC stuff. Maybe you don't want your users to create anything at all. You just want to make sure, once all the criteria is met on a specific record, you'll just create that document, either send it off or maybe save it down in Salesforce files for them to look at. So that's an option. It's also really great for if you're using communities. So if you need some documents created in a community, and people get in there twice a year, don't give them a license, they can actually use Trigger and create those documents kind of on the fly, filling out information.
Yeah, we see that quite often with like business use cases, right? So in other words, finance is in there and they need to create an invoice. Well, a certain record, once it gets to a status of like closed won, that's when automatically the system just generates an invoice and sends it off and alerts people, and everything just kind of happens in the background. And all that happened was just the change of that status.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot more like process building going on. People are getting a little bit more mature, and then they're kind of sticking this at the end of one of those processes of, okay, yeah, we've done all this great stuff. Now let's send out a document and with all the information we have.
Yeah. So I think we really quickly wanted to touch on migration, correct?
Yeah, definitely. Bobby, can you go to the next slide real quick?
Yeah.
So real quick, Tiff, do you want to touch on Conga keys and then I'll touch on migration and then we'll show it real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. So migration has always been an important topic, and in the last year, maybe a little bit more than a year ago, we've added Conga keys. So I touched on them earlier. So this is going to be for queries, templates, and Conga email templates where you don't have to use the Salesforce ID anymore, which was the case before. We create a custom key, and that key can be used to migrate. So you can even type in your own key as long as it's unique. You can kind of match that up, so you can start to copy and paste buttons from org to org, as long as you update, your queries keys to match. So when I build out solutions, it might be similar to the alias. It just needs to be 15 characters and match. Or you can just kind of copy and paste from what your production org is, what that query is, and then go paste that same key into your sandbox and vice versa. Also, they don't have to be they don't have to be connected in any way. They're completely unique per org.
So build it in a sandbox, push it into UAT, do all your testing, and then when you're ready, upgrade it into production using Conga keys, and that migration path is kind of built out for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you have control over what that is looking at now.
That's awesome.
Definitely. Well, we also wanted to touch on once you have these solutions, and Tiffany did a great job with Bobby walking through what these solutions look like and what you can do to build it. But we also know that you have multiple orgs, you have multiple needs, and it might be the same solution that you need. So really, we have a migration tool, which is really that admin and developer's best friend when it comes to Conga. Because all of that great work that you've been able to do and create those really advanced solutions that have logical decisions and do all this stuff on an automation layer and then deliver it to your customer, you can now go in and say, hey, I did this solution a while ago. I want to export this. Maybe it's in a zip file, and I can be able to upload it and bring all of that great information that I've produced. So real quick, I'm going to show you just kind of where that is in Conga. So Bobby, if you want to unshare real quick, I'll grab sharing rights. Hold on a second here. Let's see. So when you're on a solution, just everybody can see my screen.
Can.
All right, perfect. So when you're on a solution and you're looking at all of the parameters that you've added, I've got a signed service agreement solution here. And really what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to take this. So all I have to do is hit export this solution. Now, once it does, it goes and combines all the parameters, it goes and combines all the templates, any pieces that you have inside that email templates and query data, all of that, and combines it into a zip file. It adds it to a content record, which then you can download. Now, once you've downloaded this, you can import it just with a couple clicks into any org. You just pop into Composer Setup, and over on the left-hand side over here, you can see that solution migration is an option. You just click upload that file, select it, and it uploads and imports that whole solution directly into your org for use. Next thing you have to do is just add it to the layout that you want to use it on or the Lightning component, and you're off to the races.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, so we've been hearing that for years from SIs and admins who are saying, we're constantly in different orgs building out solutions, we're migrating things, or especially SIs who might build, maybe they're in fins and they constantly build out this know your client document, right, Cam? That's something pretty common, and insurance forms or contracts, any of those kind of common agreements. An SI might go into their dev org, build out that kind of solution, and then export it into a zip file. And hey, when they've got a new customer, they can just import it, and they've got a starting point, and maybe 80% or 90% is already complete. They can just customize it for that customer and poof, take off, right?
Yeah, it makes it awesome for the customers too. So can you imagine you're on a budget, you're trying to implement all this digital transformation, all these competing interests, and then you have an SI that can provide you a better ROI on their time because they've already got some of those solutions built, really cutting down on the time they have to spend building solutions, and they can really help you and consult to make that digital transformation easier.
Yeah.
And one important note on there, if you do start to play with the import export of that, and one of those fails, always check your recycle bin, because if it fails, it usually fails at the end of the process. It doesn't have like a field is doesn't match or something like that, but everything is in your recycle bin, so you can pull it out. You don't have to try to put it back in. You can pull it out and troubleshoot.
That's great. So, we wanted to throw this out here, if you're a partner, or if you're an admin, or, somebody out there, we've got, some options here. We got partner@conga.com, support@conga.com. And then, if you're involved with maybe even Salesforce, or the alliances, the alliance team is, that's the three of us, and sbt@conga.com, definitely, here to assist. We have an internal Salesforce Trailhead module in the Partner Learning Camp. So if you're familiar with the PLC, search Conga. You can take the Digital Document Transformation Trailhead. And if you're in SDRat, Amit, I think here's some of your information here. And I guess we could, if we've got a few minutes, we could open it up to a little bit of Q&A.
Yeah, there's some great questions in here that we can start to cover. So Conga does require a license. There are some per click options when you're using Trigger, and we do offer a discount for nonprofits and community users.
So there's been a lot of questions around contracts, and Tiff, maybe you want to cover it, or Bobby, but really the goal is, what do we do after these documents? And this is kind of combining a bunch of questions that were around the same piece. What can we do once these documents are created to negotiate and collaborate on these documents?
Oh yeah, Conga just isn't documents anymore. Again, that's our roots and where we came from. But our suite of solutions around CLM with contract lifecycle management, we have a full contract negotiation true up solution. We built Conga Signs. We have our own e-signature platform. We've got Conga CPQ. We've got our own CPQ element. We've got Conga Grid for the ability of grids. I think, Tiffany and I.
First thing I install in every org, even if I'm not demoing it.
Yeah. And when we first, acquired Grid and started to get it, we started demoing it to Salesforce. And I remember Salesforce just, stop, whoa, contracts is great and composer docs are great. What is this grid thing? We need this. And Salesforce actually, they were adamant about